Hello again. I hope you all enjoyed or are enjoying today's lunch. During Sunday's opening plenary session, the panelists discussed where we came from, where we are now, where we need to go, and how we get there. We learned there are promising technologies and programs, but that all of these countermeasures must work together within a safe system approach. None of these solutions will solve the problem alone, and neither will we. We must take all our lessons learned over the past 3 days and work together to reach the only acceptable number of lives lost on our roadways: 0. Our next speaker embodies this mission. On January 13th, 2023, Shailen Bhatt was sworn in by U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg as the 21st Administrator of the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA. Administrator Bhatt was confirmed unanimously by a voice vote in the U.S. Senate on December 8, 2022. He is the first person of Indian descent to lead FHWA. In this role, he oversees over 2,700 FHWA employees in all 50 states, U.S. territories, and the District of Columbia, and provides executive leadership on strategic initiatives and policy, including administering more than $350 billion as part of President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, and his formula and competitive grant programs that are available to state departments of transportation, metropolitan planning organizations, local governments, tribes, territories, federal land management agencies, and other organizations. As administrator, Bhatt brings a record of successful project and program delivery needed in the once-in-a-generation level of infrastructure investment, in which the impacts of FHWA policy and funding choices will last for generations, and will make people safer, reduce the emissions in our air, while implementing resilient transportation systems for our changing climate, create a fair transportation system, and strengthen our economy. Administrator Bhatt brings to this role a passion for improving safety and protecting all road users on America's roads, bridges, highways, and other surface transportation infrastructure, including people using them for walking and biking. He is also committed to transforming our nation's infrastructure systems to address transportation's impacts on our global climate while making them more equitable and fair for all. His distinguished career includes serving in leadership positions in the public and private sectors, including the Kentucky, Delaware, and Colorado Departments of Transportation, the Intelligent Transportation Society of America, AECOM, and is FHWA's Associate Administrator for Highway Policy and External Affairs in the Obama administration. Administrator Bhatt graduated summa cum laude from Western Kentucky University with a degree in economics. He considers being a good father and husband to be the most important priority in the world, and he and his wife, Neelam, are the proud parents of 2 daughters, Sanvi and Nandini. While Bhatt is focused on his day job, he keeps his skates sharpened, his stick freshly taped, and stands ready to answer the call for any NHL team ready to take a chance on him. Please join me in welcoming FHWA Administrator Shailen Bhatt.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And by the way, that hockey line was not a laugh line for those of you who thought it was a joke. I'm doing transportation avocationally until I get picked up by the NHL, but the window is almost closed. So it is just a tremendous honor to come and speak to a conference with the name of Lifesavers. I've worked in transportation for almost 20 years now, and I've always said that departments of transportation, whether it's a state, a city, or the U.S. Department of Transportation, have 2 reasons for existence: to save lives and to make people's lives better. But sometimes our words don't match up with our actions. And in this role as the Federal Highway Administrator, I am really super excited because we finally have a chance to match resources with this idea that we want to get to 0 deaths. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about big numbers, but I'm also going to talk about people. And I'm going to talk about the strategy by which we used to get there. So I'm going to start with, I don't know how to characterize this. I guess we call this cautious optimism. We put the 32,000 number on there because that's when I was at USDOT in 2011. And road fatalities were at 32,479, which was an all-time low for us. And we were super excited that we were going to get to 0 deaths. And I then went on to be the Secretary of Transportation in Delaware, the Executive Director of CDOT, and everywhere I went, we said, let's get towards 0. But we went from 32,479 to 43,000 deaths on American roadways. So the fact that we dropped to 41,000 in 2023, I think is obviously good news, but it just has to be tempered by the fact that 41,000 people died on American roadways. And so, I just don't think we should rest until we actually get to 0, but I'm going to characterize this as, again, cautious optimism, really glad that it's happening, but obviously a lot more for all of us to do. But while it's, we're seeing better numbers for vehicle occupants, vulnerable road users, the numbers continue to skyrocket. So when I became the CDOT director in 2014, I think there were 484 deaths on Colorado roadways. When I left in 2017, it was up over 700. I think last year, 716, which was a 6% reduction. So good job on that for the Colorado team. But it was a 10% increase year over year, the vast majority of that around vulnerable road users. And what we are just seeing out there is just carnage on the roadway for pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists, just people who aren't encased in 3,000 pounds of steel. And so we've just got to do a better job of focusing our efforts, particularly around vulnerable road users. Very excited about the safe system approach at USDOT, and our colleagues are here from NHTSA. Federal Highways is part of this coalition that has answered the call for Secretary Buttigieg around this safe system approach. So we want safer vehicles, and I know NHTSA is very focused on the vehicle side of this. Again, much more we can do in this space. Post-crash care, the quicker we can get you to critical services. We know that golden hour after the crash is critically important. Safe roads, we can design our roads much more safely, and I'll talk a little bit about how we are changing the way that we look at roadway design. Safe road users, making sure that it's safe for all road users, and then safer speeds. I'll get into the speed side of it, but it's pretty incontrovertible that higher speeds lead to worse outcomes, particularly for vulnerable road users. And so I think the mayor of Boston came out the other day with an idea to reduce all speed limits in the city to 20 miles an hour. There's going to be a lot of resistance to that, and I get that. But what is incontrovertible with that is that fatalities and serious injuries will go down. In that 43,000 number from last year is Magnus White. And this one, there's a lot of names that stand out from that. But I should not be up here talking about Magnus White at a Lifesavers conference. Magnus White should be being talked about as a champion cyclist for the United States who's competing internationally for us. And instead of that, he was killed on a highway not far from here. And I think that this one resonates with me because I'm pretty familiar with that roadway, and I think there was a plan with the state and the city to deploy some safety countermeasures. And look, you can't go back and say if only, but I think we can say collectively that out of that 41,000 that lost their lives last year, what can we do and how do we move with speed so that people like Magnus White or Sarah Langenkamp, who was an exemplary employee for the U.S. government, mother of 2 young boys, and she's somebody else that we talk about now, and her husband Daniel is a real advocate for saving lives on our roadways. So we've actually used this as a case study for how we can do these things better. So this is Colorado 119, and there are planned proven safety countermeasures for this stretch. So bicycle lanes, crosswalk and visibility enhancements, lighting, reduced left turn conflict intersections or Michigan lefts. Some of you may know it by that. Rumble strips, sidewalks, side paths. But he was biking on the shoulder of this road, so doing what you would expect him to be. He wasn't doing anything in a way that was outside of the norm. So, and this is something that we really are focused on as federal highways. The proven safety countermeasures, bike lanes. There is a shockingly low number of bike lanes in this country, and I don't mean striping. I mean actually segregated bike lanes where you have a barrier because Americans won't cycle unless they feel it's safe. And so any of these are proven safety countermeasures that the federal highway team is working closely with AASHTO, amongst others, who have really adopted this. I talked about speeds. We know that speeds are a critical focus for us. I actually had breakfast with Amy Ford and Josh Leakley, who were a critical part of the team at CDOT. Now they're at City and County of Denver. Amy's got amazing ideas about what she can do with Denver to lower speeds and lower lower crashes. Speed safety cameras. This is something that we've released guidance on. I cannot believe that every school zone in America does not have a speed safety camera. There's no reason why anybody would ever need to speed in a school zone. I know it's politically unpopular, but that is just something that every jurisdiction should be looking at. Road diets is another area. If you have like certain ADT, you can't do it on every roadway, but we've got roadways that are 4-lane, really wide open, leads to higher speeds. So if you've got lower ADT, you can do things to calm the traffic. This is an example in Gettysburg where they took a wide open roadway, higher speeds, calmed the traffic, and you're seeing safer speeds and a safer roadway. And there are roads in the City and County of Denver, there's roads in Colorado, roads across the nation that would benefit from this. And then I would be remiss if I didn't touch on technology, whether it's connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles. We have an intersection safety challenge, saving lives with connectivity. I'm just a firm believer that technology is this next frontier for us to really help us get to zero. And I always talk about Trooper Cody Donahue. He was actually on Governor Hickenlooper's protective detail, and he used to call me the backup because he said I looked like a cop. I was a few pounds lighter back when I was a CDOT director. And he'd be like, here comes the backup, great guy. And, Cody was this picture of if there's ever a state, trooper that nobody could harm, he was 6'4", 260 pounds, but all muscle. And he was killed on I-25 a few weeks after he left the detail by a commercial vehicle that drifted across the fog line. And so whether it is autonomous trucking or connected vehicles, I just think we can harness technology to save ourselves from the technology that is becoming the distraction that is pulling us away from the thing. It's the thing that we don't want to be doing now is driving. And so we can harness technology to find those solutions. And also Safe Streets and Roads for All. I think we've put out $1 billion last year. Deadlines are coming up, so please note that deadline. It's coming up. And I'll just close by saying this is something that's personally important to me. One of the things that I want to ensure is that when I'm done as Federal Highway Administrator, that this transportation system we have, particularly for vulnerable road users, is safer. So this was me and my family biking to my birthday dinner last year. My youngest daughter is actually a Colorado native, but this is something we do, and every time I'm out on the roadway and I hear cars approaching, I'm like, do they know how precious these little beings are? And so my challenge and my challenge for you to challenge us as the Federal Highway Administration, if there are things that we can do to make it safer, I always say now, we should err on the side of safety, not on the side of caution when it comes to getting to zero deaths. Thank you very much, and have a great conference.
Thank you, Administrator Bhatt, and thank you so much for your passion and all that FHWA is doing to save lives and help us reach that needed goal of 0. And I hope you had the best luck with the NHL, but I really hope they don't steal you away from all the excellent work you're doing in traffic safety. It'd be a tremendous loss for us. Over these past 3 days, we've been a witness to so many amazing speakers, innovative and emerging technologies, and best practice programs, and countermeasures and promising practices to save lives on our roadways. Over these days, you've shared your stories, your data, your successes, your tears, and yourselves to help us work together to end all fatalities on our roadways. As the Lifesavers Conference comes to a close, we wanted to reflect on what we've learned here and the takeaways that we can bring back to our communities. It's my pleasure to introduce the panelists for our closing panel discussion, personal takeaways from Lifesavers Conference, and bring cohesion to the safe system approach. So please welcome our panelists. First is Barbara Rooney, Director of the California Office of Traffic Safety and Chair of GHSA. Next, we have Patrol Colonel Matt Packard, Chief of the Colorado State Patrol. Next is Spencer Moore, Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Driver Services and formerly the GHSA rep for Georgia and Chair the AAMVA Board of Directors. And next is our moderator, Brian Ursino, AAMVA Acting Vice President and Director for Law Enforcement.
Well, thank you for those great introductions, Ryan. I appreciate it. And I'm here to tell everybody, first of all, good afternoon. I'm very humbled to be on stage with such a distinguished panel. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
We're going to discuss the roles we each play in enculturating the safe systems approach in the United States, so let's get started. My first question is for Barbara and for Spencer. As chairs of the Governor's Highway Safety Association and American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, respectively, how do your associations contribute to moving the national culture toward a safe systems approach? And let's start with Barbara.
Sure. Is this working? Can everybody hear me? Awesome. Thanks again for including me. I really, really appreciate it. GHSA has actually been championing, if I can say that word, been a champion of, how about that? Safe system approach for several years now. But I would tell you that one of the first things that our association really had to do was to reinforce the comprehensive nature of the safe system. Some of you may recall a time when voices in the safety community regarded the safe system as primarily infrastructure and disregarded just about everything else. So just to dispel that misconception, GHSA published a report back in December of 2021. Hopefully folks here in the room are familiar with that report. Maybe nodding, show of hands. I hope you have, thank you, have taken a look at it. This really wasn't, the purpose of it really wasn't rhetorical. What we were really trying to do there was we framed up each of the safe system principles and the elements and showed how many of our popular and our effective behavioral safety strategies, how they can be classified in each of the elements. So that was huge. So I would just say more broadly, and you've heard it over the course of the last 3 days, how important all of our tools at our disposal are to helping to reduce crashes. We absolutely need infrastructure, education, enforcement, vehicle safety, and emergency response. But it's really important to understand it's because all of these really approach roadway safety problems at different angles. So there's a lot that I can say about that. I would also say, in addition to all of the great work that's being carried out there by state and local DOTs, engineers, regulators, healthcare partners, GHSA members are largely focused on the users of the system themselves. So I'm thinking specifically about the major behavioral crash contributors like drunk driving and speeding and lack of restraint, which we all know are still cited as factors in about a third of our fatal crashes. And this is, of course, in addition to all the other threats that, like distracted and drugged driving. But ultimately, what we see, our role in behavior is really to make sure that we are investing in all of the countermeasures to address these issues, but also, and this is what I want to stress, but also closely coordinating and collaborating with our peers working in the other parts of the system. Because what we're trying to do is to make sure that we can make the safety net really as strong as possible.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate that. Spencer, talk about AAMVA and how they're doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian, first of all, for allowing me to be here. And before I answer the question, I just want to give a short reflection because I attended my first Lifesavers in 1998 when I was with the Highway Safety Office. So I've spent many years in this area. I came over to AAMVA World in 2012. And it's been absolutely awesome. But what I've learned is collaboration still needs to be assisted. There's more of it that we need to accomplish. So to tell you a little bit about AAMVA, if you don't know about our organization, it represents 69 jurisdictions. United States, our states, our territories, as well as the provinces of Canada. And if you were to talk to any person who's a counterpart to me as the administrator in their particular state, you know that they are very, very focused on safe drivers like AAMVA, safe vehicles, secure credentials, which we obviously have to produce, as well as saving lives. And if you turn that saving lives around, it's Lifesavers. That's who we are. Every DMV administrator that I'm aware of, we know, for example, that we're going to put thousands, if not millions, of new drivers out on our roadways each year. It's important that we have ways to evaluate whether or not they're knowledgeable enough to drive. They have the experience and the ability to do it safely. Likewise, if you look at the spectrum of drivers, we also play a big role when it comes to senior drivers. In many cases, I just had a call just a few days ago. An 89-year-old mother her license was suspended, but it came through a medical evaluation in which her family felt like she shouldn't be driving for her safety as well as the safety of those who use the road. But every single DMV service that's occurring across the country is because we're connected by AAMVA. And AAMVA, in its latest approach to really tackle safe systems, is we have developed a state-to-state program in which 40 states now participate. What is state-to-state? It's simply the ability for every single DMV that's associated, 40 now, and will be all in accordance to the Real ID law, that we are connected so that when problem drivers, not just problem drivers, but any driver, when they're moving from one jurisdiction to the next, those bad driving habits don't somehow get skipped. And when our law enforcement encounters them on the road, they know their full history versus just the history that they picked up in a particular state. These are important tools to our safe systems approach. We also have a program at AAMVA called Driver History Record, again, where we're transitioning from just giving information across jurisdictions about problems, but about all drivers, so that ultimately we are fostering that safe driver approach along with, of course, our safe vehicles. So at AAMVA, the biggest thing that I can say, we are here to partner. We have a tremendous stake in the safe system approach. For those who are in this area and know the data from courts to citations being written, to, of course, everything that a law enforcement officer is going to see at the point of roadside intervention, that's going to come from an AAMVA jurisdiction member. So we're excited to play our part and be a part of this team.
Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate that. And we're going to get to the Colonel in just a second, but I'm going to ask first Barbara and Spencer. You've talked about the association level engagement, but now I want to drill down to your individual states. And Barbara, let's start with you and your office in California. How are you specifically in the state of California working towards this culture of safe systems approach?
Oh gosh, it has been, I would say, my passion project for the last at least year or so. My team, I'm looking at my team over there, they know this. It's really about moving the culture in California, and it truly is something that we're doing to just prompt a call to act. As we were dealing with the just horrific numbers that we were all seeing and the crisis that was playing out on our roadway, we in California knew, especially at the State Highway Safety Office level, that we really needed to take a leadership role in this space to drive forward. In the beginning, my team probably laughs still at me. I called it Project Awakening, because what I was really trying to do was put together something that would really just capture society, draw their attention to the crisis. So last May, we started what we call the Go Safely movement, and it was to do just that. It was to draw attention to the crisis, open society's eyes to what was playing out on our roads, to the unacceptable number of deaths and serious injuries that we were seeing. And again, this was our way to really prompt culture change. So we've been putting a tremendous amount of emphasis in this space to try to make roadway safety a priority and top of mind. It's to get the public to demand and expect safer roads, something that we know as state highway safety offices, and I think everyone here in the room knows, that is a prerequisite to successful implementation of the safe system approach. So we see ourselves as playing a big role in that. So we've been really working hard in that space. And one of the exciting components, I will tell you, that came out of us launching this movement is we started something called the Traffic Safety Champions Program. We had launched a public survey, and as part of that public survey, we thought, why don't we ask community members if they would like to join our family, essentially, and get involved in traffic safety and really encourage and facilitate it at a community local level, make it very grassroots. So we did that. We added to our survey the opportunity to sign up, to raise your hand and say, I would like to participate and improve safety in my community. We had over 300 people sign up, and so we are we want them to be successful. So the first thing we're doing is we're connecting them to all of the efforts in their local area. We're working with them to understand what are the areas that they have passion in. Was it a particular program area? What is the area they're interested in contributing? Are they a worker bee? Are they a community organizer? Would they like to learn how to do community advocacy? Are they a social media influencer? So we work to figure out what it is that they are really interested in doing to be a part of the solution. And so we have started this. We've kicked off. We've had our first webinar. We're getting ready to do these every quarter, where we are bringing into this virtual workshop subject matter experts in all of those spaces to really feed and resource and nurture these champions. Again, if you raise your hand and you say you would like to be a part of the solution to the problem, we are committed to help you be successful to get there. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you, Barbara. And I'm going to say shout out to California Highway Patrol and Commissioner Sean Duryea, who was actually here. He made a presentation at one of the Lifesavers sessions this week. So I know a lot of great things are happening in California between your office, the CHP, the DMV. So kudos to California. And now I'm going to ask Spencer the same thing in the state of Georgia and the Department of Driver Services. What's going on?
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. You spoke about culture. First of all, culture starts at the top. And it's in our state where you have a governor who's very focused on bringing organizations together in order to achieve outcomes, positive outcomes. In our state, especially in our DMV services, we have always been that agency who wants to provide fast, efficient services, but we want to do it in a way that we are also securely implementing the credentialing process within our state. Personally, I have 14 plus years in the highway safety business before coming into the DMV. So that passion that every single member that's in this audience has, I have it too. I think it's infectious. If you're part of this community, at times we come together in a way that I don't know that any other industry can do, from the DMV services, like you mentioned, to law enforcement. Of course, our highway safety officers, they're the pillars. They're the folks who bring us all together, and we happen to have an absolutely wonderful highway safety office led by Alan Poole. He and his team, whether it's through the strategic highway safety plan or other parts of programs that they put together, they're constantly calling the DOT commissioner, calling the commissioner of driver services, calling the colonel of the state patrol to come to meetings so that we can collaborate. And again, that culture starts at the top. Within our organization also, one of the things that we've done is we started to produce fact sheets within our own agency. That's traditionally something that's been done at highway safety. But we want to know with the data that we receive at the DMV, who are our most vulnerable road users? What do they look like? What is their population? Where are they located? So that we can get this information to law enforcement. We certainly can get it to community groups who can help become advocates for safety. We have 67 locations in our state. So we have a lot of counties in Georgia. There's 159. But within those 159, you can get to a location just about within 30, 45 minutes. One of the things we focus on is educating the nearly 20,000 people that we see face to face, whether it's for a vehicle service or a driver service, to ensure that they know about safety. We're putting pamphlets out in coordination with the Highway Safety Office and other organizations within the state to, again, push the safe systems approach, to be coordinated, to collaborate, and hopefully affect change. That's our goal, and personally, having done this 27 years, I don't think there's no easy way for us to accomplish the goal that we have, which is zero. I think every single person who is in any traffic safety capacity, when we see a person die, that's not a great moment. And every morning, for our state at least, there's a daily report that comes out from our DOT that gives us the name of the individual who perhaps was killed in a crash. Every time I see that report, it's so sobering. It literally pushes me and motivates me to want to do more to enhance the way that we put drivers on the road, help create measures in which we can evaluate people who shouldn't be on the road. A lot of political things are involved in that, of course, but what we can do, we try to do, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate that. A lot of good things happening in Georgia as well. Before I get to my first question for the Colonel, I want to set the stage just a little bit. I was a 30-year state trooper in Washington State, a retired as lieutenant colonel. What's happening today in law enforcement is at the state, county, and city level, we're all struggling with staffing. We're all struggling with staffing. And what's happened over the last 4 years is proactive traffic law enforcement has declined drastically across the nation. At the very same time, crashes have gone up. I'm not saying it's a direct causation, but it certainly is a contributing factor. Certainly it's a contributing factor. And that kind of leads me to my question for Colonel Packard. Colonel, again, speaking about the safe systems approach, one of the core principles of the safe systems approach is that safety is proactive. Certainly this applies to proactive and equitable traffic law enforcement. Can you describe how the Colorado State Patrol uses data and other strategies to guide your important traffic law enforcement efforts?
Yeah, thanks very much, Brian, and my fellow panelists. I could have sit here and listened to both of you for a while. The words you're using, culture and passion, and it's drive, and this room that's here is so filled with that. And I just thank you to all of you. It is energizing to be in a room with people that give so much towards this mission. I frequently, and I'll get to your question, Brian, but roadway safety is quality of life, and it's so easy to forget that with all of the other stuff that happens in this world. But make no mistake, when we focus and improve roadway safety, we are absolutely increasing the quality of life in communities across this country, and I've got the data to prove it. So thank you for that. Thank you for being in Colorado as well. I have to admit, I'm kind of a data nerd. I like it. I went to college for accounting. I thought I wanted to be an FBI agent, and then I realized how cool it was to be a trooper. So I went and got an accounting degree, and then came in within the patrol and started working on, got involved in really my formative years as a trooper. I did crash reconstruction, so numbers make me smile, right? And so I really find that spot in data. And I remember shortly after becoming the colonel having a conversation with our deputy chief at the time. He's since retired, and I don't remember what we were debating or what problem we were trying to solve, but he kind of looked at me and said, well, Chief, you do kind of like data a lot. So I do, but here's why. Data doesn't give us the how, but it certainly does, it can help us shed light on the when, the where, and the why. And those things help us discover new ways to accomplish the how we're going to solve this problem. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to do within the Colorado State Patrol is provide better access to that data and then push that information down to the doers, to our state troopers, that some of them are here in this room, our port officers also in this room, to better inform their daily decision making as to where they need to be working and what they should be working on to save lives. Because I firmly believe our troopers, just like all of you, are in this room because you're passionate about this work. And so let's give you the information you can to be smarter and more intentional with the work that you're putting in during your shift in that day. As I look at how this has progressed, I started as a sergeant in the patrol at our troop office. It was a satellite office in Trinidad, Colorado. And if you look at a map, our office was 11 miles north of the state line of New Mexico, co-located with CDOT. And I already had the data bug, as they say. And this is not new, and several of you in this room probably did something similar. I went next door to the CDOT office and said, hey, can you print me a map of what we're responsible here? And then I bought a bunch of pins, right? And I literally, as my troopers would investigate crashes, I'd put a pin on the map and said this color meant it was an impaired driving one. And this one, whatever that was, it was really impaired driving because I didn't have that many pins, I guess. And looked at impaired driving. And then I'd read, their arrest reports for DUIs. And you could highlight, well, so we're arresting all of our impaired driving offenses in this area, but look where these crashes are happening. We're informing, is this the best use of our time? Yeah, sure, we can brag about getting impaired drivers off the road, but are we really doing that work in the right place? Well, today, that data is getting so much more rich and accessible. And so we've worked really hard to bring as close to real time as we possibly can. As a report is approved, as an arrest is made, that's going into a data warehouse for us that truly is accessible in the patrol car. So if a trooper wants to, she can pull up the computer, say, what's the crash picture look like today on a Tuesday afternoon at noon in Denver County. And they can go look and see, maybe this is where I should go work my shift today and see if we can prevent something from occurring. Now, I'm not sure. I have my suspicions that probably not a lot of our troopers are doing that, and they're going because of time, right? They've got other stuff to do. But we are asking the leadership, their first-line supervisors, and certainly troop commanders to spend a lot of time looking at that data and then let that steer how we're building shifts, how we're assigning duty locations, and all of those things to give us the best opportunity to be successful. And then I would also say that while I think visibility is a core principle to what we should be doing in policing, we have hard data that will show this. But when we survey the community, they'll tell us the same thing. From a traffic safety perspective, when you see a state trooper in this state, a silver car, you're going to drive better. That just happens. So if we can be visible, that helps. But when we're engaging in enforcement actions, we need to be focusing on those violations that we know to be causing crashes. And you talk to a state trooper in Colorado, they darn well better be able to tell you that we need to look at speed, we need to look at impaired driving, we need to look at lane violations. We know those things across the state are causing crashes. And so I don't care that you stop an equipment violation. In fact, we like those too, but the bulk of your enforcement operations really should be steered at these things that we know are causing crashes. And that's how we're going to move this needle in the right direction. You heard Administrator Bhatt talk about the number. I think it was 767 is where we peaked in 2022. And that we're driving back down, 716 last year. We've got a lot of ground to make up, and the only way we're going to do that is if we're strategic. You talk about the resource issue. Yeah, there are fewer of us out, which makes it even more imperative that we go to the places that we need, that we should be, to have the biggest impact for our buck. And the only other thing, and I'll stop talking for you, Brian, but is I would tell you this: we have come a long way from pin maps, but our data is nowhere close to where it needs to be. We can do so much more. When we're talking about it, and I'll own at the state level, our data is slow. It's just slow, and we can do it better. And then that's magnified all the way through the federal system, that when we're 18, 24 months, and we're talking about projected fatalities that are 18 months behind, like, it's too late. Like, and so we can invest so much more in a more focused manner to make that data real time. Because when you give me the stuff in real time, I can make impact in close to real time. And that's another way I think we can be more successful at saving lives.
Well said.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you. And you're not done talking, because the next question is for you as well. But again, I'm going to take the opportunity to pontificate for just a moment. I also serve, in addition to, I serve on the IACP Roadway Safety Committee. Matter of fact, I know there's some other committee members in the audience. Later this week, we'll be in Texas talking, but one of the key points of conversation at the Roadway Safety Committee is getting law enforcement back in the game, quote unquote. We talk about resource issue being a primary problem, and even the officers we do have are so busy being reactive and going to calls for service that they're not as proactive as they can and should be. Now, if you're a law enforcement officer and you're in this room, you're not the people we need to be talking about, because you're here for a reason. You already have that passion. But we have other officers who we need to get back in the game. And that kind of leads me to my second and final question for you, Colonel. As important as proactive traffic law enforcement is, two-part question: how do we get all of law enforcement, our partners in law enforcement, to re-engage in proactive traffic law enforcement? But then, what other activities can they engage in that supports this culture of safe systems?
Yeah, you know what, we need to keep talking. And I spoke about this a little bit on Sunday morning, is we can't be afraid to engage in the conversation. And I'll go back to what I said previously, that there really isn't much debate, in my mind anyway, that traffic safety equates to quality of life. And when we all got into this profession, we all kind of follow into where we find passion. And I was not a truck guy by any means, but I loved looking for impaired drivers. Well, that happens in policing as well. And I think there is an opportunity for us to spend more time talking about the value of a traffic stop. When we talk about trust building, if you really think about the opportunity that you have as a police officer on a traffic contact, you have the opportunity to make a relationship. You really do. And over time things have changed a little bit. But if I have the opportunity to make a non-live side approach on the safe side of the car as you're up there talking, if you take a little bit of time to have a conversation about why that violation mattered. It's, I stopped you for this, and here's why this is a big deal to you. And then you can start making better decisions. And that has this broader impact, and it's trust building. And so, again, we talk about the value of a trust in a trooper, a police officer, deputy. That starts with face-to-face interaction. And these happen at the tens of thousands of times in a traffic stop. So if I'm a municipal officer and I want to have relationships in a community, there's an opportunity to build that, right, on the traffic stop. And we let that go sometimes as a missed opportunity, in my opinion. So we can do a better job of explaining the why, but also building the relationship at that traffic stop, and know that there's so much, and there's a lot of politics and narrative around that a traffic stop for another purpose, if you will. But this is a person that violated the law, large or small or otherwise. But you have the opportunity to build relationship and trust in the system, and that will bring more policing professionals into this conversation. I think that helps a little bit. The other thing, a side plug, I suppose, is for if you're not a cop, tell them that you appreciate them. And as we're coming through this last couple of years, there's a lot of cops that have been, they don't feel appreciated. And like I said, most of these folks have the same passion that I do and a lot of you, most of you do. And you have no idea how much it means to have a guy at a gas pump come up to you and say, I appreciate what you do. So if you want folks and these people that are on the fence that are worried about uncomfortable situations, you can make a lot, honest to goodness, by just saying thank you and giving them a pat on the back or just acknowledging that their service, because there's a lot of folks who do a lot of neat work around the state, around the country. The other stuff, so even if we made every traffic stop of every violation, we're never gonna happen, right? I look at the rural parts of our state, where our staffing is probably the most barren is in the rural part of Colorado. There's just no way that we're gonna have the opportunity through the normal course of our business to have that interaction, that education opportunity. So I do think that we need to do a better job, and we can use data also in this construct to inform public engagement, whether that's speaking at schools or community events or those types of things. But one of the things that we looked, and I appreciate the inclusion of honoring the service of Trooper Cody Donahue. But let me talk about that crash for a little bit. Cody died in November of 2016. He was investigating a car crash, as was described, on northbound I-25, just south of Castle Rock. They were on the right shoulder of the road. He was the second trooper there. He recognized he needed to get off the roadway quickly, so he went down there to help another trooper. He'd been on scene for a few minutes when this commercial motor vehicle, again, drifted onto the shoulder and struck and killed him. 1 year and 10 days earlier, Trooper Jamie Jersevics, and you heard from her husband on Sunday, she was, 10 miles south of that location when she was struck and killed. And that and other, we had a total of 5 line-of-duty deaths. And one of the things that we looked at specifically in the wake of those incidents is what's happening. And what we looked at, one of the things that was highlighted through a good friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Colonel Tracy Trott, he helped us identify that when we stopped enforcing move-over violations, our cars and people got struck more often. And the other thing that we noticed is when we stopped talking about it in the media and so in engagement, people stopped paying attention. And it was crystal clear. The struck bys kind of fell off in 2017 and 2018 and 2019. We lost 2 troopers in struck by incidents, one in March and one in June. And it was, like I said, crystal clear. And so I'll tell you this, education and social media engagement, and all those things, they absolutely work. And it's a worthwhile investment of your time where we can have a trooper, have a comm officer, a traffic safety professional talk about these things and be data informed there as well and say, this is what's killing people in your neighborhood. This is what's killing people or seriously injuring them in your community. And these are the behaviors that will help change. And I tell you this, there's a very, very well-known, I've referenced this a lot, and I frequently forget the speaker's name, but there's a speech of a graduation at, I believe it's the University of Texas, when he talks about you can influence one person today, and that person influences, say, 5 more, right? And that sphere of influence continues to go out. And I'll talk about this. If you can go into a classroom wearing what I wear to work every day, more than likely the kids already know what I'm going to say, right? They do. You see a state trooper, I'm going to tell you, don't drive drunk, put on your seatbelt, do the speed limit, put down the phone. Hopefully that'll be law in Colorado here in a couple hours. We're working on a lot of really cool stuff. But my speech gives itself, but if I can convince, 1 or 2 or 3 other people of that same mission, let that ripple go, pretty soon that conversation, that relationship that we're engaging from an informed position is moving from the classroom to the dinner table, to the community center, to the family, all across. And that's not necessarily happening on the traffic stop. That's happening when we're having a perhaps less stressful interaction.
Wow, that's great stuff, Colonel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I had a whole bunch of other questions, but we're getting near the end of our time. I'm going to make one more comment and then give this some thought. I'm going to ask each of you for 30 seconds of final thoughts. I wanted to say this to the audience. What all of you do individually is incredibly important. But you've heard a common theme up here, collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. So what you do collectively is even more important. Individually is great, collectively is better. Collaboration is synergy. collaboration is a force multiplier. So keep doing what you do it together, and we'll eventually keep moving that thing down. So 30 seconds of closing thoughts, and we'll start with Barbara.
Well, I reflect on when I come to Lifesavers, how it really fills my cup, being here with all of you, spending a few days. There's just really nothing like it, spending a few days with passionate people. So I'll keep it short to my 30, but it's just my personal takeaway is really that we do need everyone continuing to work together. So the theme of collaboration is really what's resonating with me. So I'll leave you with that. I think that there are tremendous opportunities for us within the SAFE system to work across the system collaboratively together, and I encourage each and every one of you to find ways to do that. Get out of your lane, get out of your silos, and start finding ways to support one another in our efforts across the system.
Great final thought, Colonel.
I'm just going to piggyback. If you're doing it by yourself, you're doing it wrong. And use opportunities like this to talk to people that don't think like you, that work in different fields than you do, and get their perspective on our shared common vision. And Lifesavers, conferences like these are a great laboratory for creation. So keep engaging like this. Go find somebody's phone number if you haven't already found it, and build a new bridge, because in a collaborative way we can make difference and save lives. So thanks for being here, but don't let this be the end of your building friendships and shared passion. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Colonel. And Spencer.
Thank you, Brian, and I certainly will piggyback on the things that have been said. 2 words: partnership, collaboration. As a representative of a DMV, often they are very, very busy in different aspects of their work. But I would tell you, if you're a traffic safety advocate in any way, and you work in this field of safe systems approach, keep knocking on the door of those DMV administrators. Keep knocking on the door. They will listen, and they will work with you, and they are a treasure of data that can help us all drive great outcomes. So again, thank you for being here, because it shows your passion. I told you I attended the first one in 1998. I had no idea that I was coming out of a short law enforcement career. I came into traffic safety, and 27 years later, I'm still here because I love it. I love it. I love the people who work with it, and it's just a passion that burns. So thank you for allowing me to be here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next go-around. By the way, I should say this, Brian. Let me. So if you happen to want to learn more about AAMVA, you should come to the AIC, which is September 24th through 26th in Atlanta, Georgia. And I promise you, we will give you an experience that you will love.
Thank you, Spencer. Yes, come to our conference too. That is our time. Please join me in thanking our great panel. And thank you all for what you do.
Thank you so much, Brian and the panel, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us for your passion and your experience and your dedication and all that you've done to teach us about how we can break down silos, collaborate, and implement the safe system approach into our communities, and some real actionable strategies there. So thank you so much for that. And I'd be remiss not to mention that Brian's also on the Lifesavers board and has been a tremendous force in making this conference what it was this year, so a special thanks to him. So it is now that time to say thank you to our host state, Colorado, and to pass the safety vest to our 2025 host, California. Lifesavers will be held in Long Beach, California, March 9th through 11th, 2025, at the Long Beach Convention Center, so mark your calendars. Here to kick off the passing of the vest from our 2024 host state is Colorado's Manjari Bhatt, Traffic Safety and Engineering Services Branch at the Colorado Department of Transportation. Accepting the vest for California will be Barbara Rooney, Director of the California Office of Traffic Safety and Chair of GHSA. Please welcome Manjari to the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, this has been an extraordinary journey these past few days. But before I get started, I would like to thank the Governor Polis's office, our Executive Director, Shoshana Liu, and my ATS Advancing Transportation Safety team, Melody Clayton, Dan Rusin, and Sanjeev Gupta, our amazing Highway Safety Office, and all of our partners that came together to make this conference so successful. The spectrum of our discussion at this conference spanned from bridging gaps by integrating the safe systems approach into our daily work to igniting transformations in criminal justice. We've delved into depths of innovation, explored methods of controlling speeding, fostered a culture of positive safety messaging, revolutionized occupant protection, and fortified our tool belts with the safety net for our most vulnerable roadway users. We are at the nexus of engineering, behavior, and policy within our transportation safety. Now is the most important part. It is to take this knowledge home and implement what we've learned. For me, as the statewide safety champion for Colorado, it's to move forward with courage. I must find courage to champion new safety measures, even if I'm met with resistance. In this room, we all have that same mission, and that is to keep our roadways safe. To accomplish this, we must find courage. The courage to speak up when we see unsafe practices and inequities. The courage to advance safety solutions, even if they disrupt comfortable rhythms of tradition and routine. The courage to disrupt the status quo. While you all are traveling home, I encourage you to review your notes, reflect on the presentations that you attended, and identify concrete steps that you can take within the next 10 days. We all know that if we wait, it's going to get lost in the busyness of our daily work. For procrastination is the silent assassin of progress. We all came to this conference to learn how to be more effective. Every presenter shared examples of courage. Now it falls on us to channel this courage into our workplaces, our partners, our organizations, and our communities. Let us be the conduits of innovation, the precursor to change, the voices that refuse to be silenced. As we navigate the ever-changing world of transportation, let's embrace courage. Let's speak up. Let's challenge. Let us innovate. Let us learn. Because it's through this collaborative courage that will truly keep our transportation systems safe, not just for today, but for generations to come. Thank you. Before I introduce our next set of speakers, I would like to do a shout out to Glenn Davis and Carol Gold that this is going to be their last Lifesavers conference as they're retiring, and we are losing over 40 years of combined knowledge, expertise, and experience. So let's give them a round of applause. With that, I would like to bring Glenn Davis and Melina Chow up to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Manjari. I'm Glenn Davis with the Highway Safety Office of Colorado, and we would like to tell you that our team really enjoyed hosting this traffic safety conference of traffic safety professionals. We hope you were able to go out and experience some of Denver and its attractions. The work that this office had to do with Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, and the NBA to get the Rockies, Nuggets, and Avalanche to play back-to-back really took a lot of work and a lot of phone calls. Our governor's office, and on his dashboard, he has widely important goals. And of the traffic ones he has, they are to reduce traffic fatalities by 15% each year for 2 years. In 2023, our traffic fatalities went down 9%. In 2024, so far they're trending down 16%. And even though these are significant reductions, our team realizes that every month 20 Colorado roadway users will die to traffic safety violence, and a lot of that because of the bad choices of others. The success that we have had in bringing this down is a product of our partnerships dedicated to safety on Colorado highways. Our partnerships includes the Office of the Governor, our Executive Director, Colorado State Patrol, Colorado Department of Public Safety, Colorado Department of Health, Behavioral Health, NTSA Region 8, NTSA Region 8 states of Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, the Dakotas. And if the legislator does the right thing with the bill that Colonel Packard and Tuesday Black just testified on, we'll be able to say the Colorado legislature, but we'll wait and see what comes out of that. We also have partnerships on the Colorado Task Force of Drunk and Impaired Driving. All of these task force our office has leadership roles on: Persistent Drunk Driving, Occupant Protection Task Force, Motorcycle Safety Advisory Board, State Traffic Records Advisory Committee, and the Marijuana Education Oversight Committee. And we're also partners with Manjari in advancing traffic safety programs. One of the biggest factors is the commitment of the HSO team that I think has had significant impact in reducing these. So I'd like to recognize the Highway Safety Office team, if you would please stand. Every one of you. It's Carol Gould, Brooke Rohde, Jim Bath, Lisa Topman, Brittany Janes, Sam Cole, Tuesday Black, and our LEL team, Mark Hunt, Lee Burke, Aaron Brannon, Don Potter, Mark Ashby. Thank you all so much. And you can sit down, thank you. We're a small but mighty team, and so far this team has done 2 assessments, a DRE school, Lifesavers. We're going to have a summit in July, and we're going to host the State Motorcycle Safety Association in September. And we'll never have a year like this again, but everybody has really banded together and kept us straight. The last person I want to recognize is Melina Chow. Melina Chow's with our team, and the amount of work that you did with this was significant. It really kept everybody motivated, kept everybody engaged at times when that was difficult. And this Lifesavers Conference is a huge success from our office, primarily to you, and we would really like to thank you, Melina. So.
It's been a pleasure hosting the 2024 Lifesavers Conference here in Denver, Colorado. We look forward to seeing you all next year in Long Beach in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to invite Barbara back to the stage, along with her Office of Traffic Safety staff, to receive the Lifesavers Safety Vest.
How about I just hold the hat? I do hold the hat. Thank you so much. My goodness. Well, thank you for indulging me and allowing me to bring my team to the stage. They do such amazing work and will obviously do an amazing job for you in Long Beach. So thank you. I want to start off with some big thank yous. Thank you to the great state of Colorado. We had a wonderful time in the Mile High City. Thank you, Lifesavers and the Colorado DOT for pulling off an amazing, rewarding conference. Now, it's our turn to do the same. It's always great to connect with other states, other partners, and witness the passion and the commitment we all share for safer roads. We love California. We love our beaches, redwoods, our golden poppies. We also love our almonds, or some people say almonds, potato, potato. We love the spotlight and the glitz and the glamour, but also we take pride in our creativity and innovation. Did we mention the weather is kind of nice? California. The traffic, not so much. But nearly 40 people call California home for a reason. We are home to the mighty Sierra, the San Francisco Bay, the Golden Gate, Yosemite, vast valleys and deserts, and lots of wine. And it is a Mediterranean climate, after all, and always with a designated sober driver, of course. We are thrilled to share this experience with you next year, and the progressive, innovative approaches that we are taking to traffic safety. We have integrated the safe system approach and equity as guiding principles to all of our road safety efforts, because we know you cannot achieve safer roads without looking at every project and every program through an equity lens. We embrace the Go Safely California mantra. It's our way of making safe travel, getting home safe, an important part of everyday conversation. 2025 will be here sooner than we think. The planners in the room know that. We are honored and thrilled to gather again next year, where we can share ideas, we can learn, and we can inspire one another. The California Office of Traffic Safety looks forward to seeing you all in the Golden State next year, Long Beach to be exact. And in case it was not already a tough sell with the word beach in the name, here's a taste of what's in store for you next year. Well, cheers to another successful conference. Safe travels back home. Or as we say in California, go safely. We will see you all in 2025. Thank you so much.
I know I was sold at the word beach, but the video helped a lot too. So thank you, Manjari, Glenn, Melina, Barbara. I know I speak for everyone on the Lifesavers Planning Committee, as well as all of you, when I say thank you to Colorado and the Colorado Department of Transportation staff and volunteers for the time and energy you've invested in making this conference the success that it was. Thank you. There are 20 young people here today that have been immersing themselves in all things Lifesavers, our 2024 Traffic Safety Scholars. Congratulations to the Traffic Safety Scholar class of 2024. Please stand and be recognized. We wish you the best in all of your future endeavors and hope to see you again in your new role in Long Beach next year. Thank you. We also look forward to seeing all of you in Long Beach next March. As a reminder, please use the mobile app to complete the workshop evaluations. Yes, they are still open. And you can find the overall conference evaluation on the mobile app as well. And you'll also receive an email asking for your feedback. Please, please, please complete the overall evaluation at your earliest convenience. It does help us a lot to make every conference better and better each year. So thank you for doing that. And as a reminder, at all of your tables, you've got a card to give you even one more reason to go to Long Beach and see all the great things in store. Once again, thank you to our sponsors. Without you, we could not be here today. And most importantly, safe travels home, everyone. We'll see you again in Long Beach. Thank you.